Indentured Nurses by Lindsay O'Donnell. As the nursing shortage continues to wreak havoc on the bottom lines of hospitals across the country, a doctor in South Carolina, Dr. Thomas Cook, suggested that the only viable way of hospitals successfully staffing their departments is via indentured servitude. This presentation will first look at the nursing shortages, causes, and potential. In order to answer the question and choose an ethical path, I must first understand the problem. Why is there a nursing shortage? Several factors contribute to the nursing shortage, ranging from pay to educational availability. The following slides will look at just a few of the reasons. The most recent data from reputable sources on the number of colleges and nursing programs comes from the year 2014. However, given the information from more informal sources, the percentages don't appear to have changed by any great significance. According to the combined statistics presented by both the National League of Nurses and the National Center for Education Statistics, while there were 4,724 degree-granting institutions in the United States in 2014, only 710 of them, or 15%, offered bachelor degrees in nursing. Slightly more, 1,092, or 23%, offered associate's degrees in nursing, the minimal educational requirement for becoming an RN in nearly all states. In order for the United States to address the nursing shortage, more nursing programs throughout the country need to be developed. In 2015, Forbes magazine compiled a bachelor's degrees that led to careers with the lowest starting salary and placed nursing as number 10 on that list, with an average salary starting at $42,900. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics, the lifetime average salary of a nurse is $68,450. Although this salary is higher than the national average income, it is far lower than the salaries for many of the most popular bachelor's degrees only required careers. For instance, a software developer with a bachelor's degree has an average salary of $102,280. A mechanical engineer has an average salary of $84,190. And personal financial advisors make an average salary of $90,530. Since extraordinary increases in salary would make healthcare even more unaffordable for our patients, incentives need to be found in other areas such as tuition waivers for students pursuing nursing degrees. The majority of the remaining reasons that are leading to the shortage all come from external forces. The American population is aging, meaning by 2060, the population of people over the age of 65 is expected to more than double from 2016's number of 46 million to a staggering 98 million. More elderly people means more people in need of care, and right now, the number of nurses are not matching the increase in population. Another factor adding to the need for nurses is the fact that more people are insured. Under the Affordable Care Act, the number of uninsured people was nearly cut in half, decreasing from 44 million to 28 million. This meant that 16 million newly insured people were seeking care for ailments they couldn't afford to seek care for before. And once again, the number of nurses ready to answer their calls for simply wasn't and still isn't enough. This topic is wrought with ethical issues, whether it is the ethical considerations behind paying nurses more money and thereby raising the cost of care, or deciding to give 16 million people insurance without a healthcare system prepared to treat them. However, for the purpose of this video, I will be focusing on the ethical considerations that must be considered when choosing a career route within the nursing field. Where are nurses needed the most? When beginning research for this video, I assumed most pressing need for nurses would be within the long-term care facilities. The theory seemed rational, seeing as that an aging population would require more long-term care facilities. Although this idea is true at its core, the need for more long-term care facilities does not fully translate into a one-for-one need for nurses. Instead, long-term care facilities will be looking more for nursing assistants and orderlies than registered nurses. Registered nurses currently make up only 10% of the staff in long-term care facilities, and there is no indication that this percentage will rise. Instead of singling out a single specialty where nurses are needed the most, the research I have found shows that the need for nurses is spread out mostly even over all specialties. The way current nurses are adding to the growing shortage is not by picking specialties that don't need their assistance, but by absenteeing them and eventually leaving the career, with nearly 25% of respondents of one survey registered nurses claiming they were considering quitting nursing altogether. This leads to Dr. Cook's idea of indentured servitude. Although his idea is not the true indentured servitude of the 17th century variety, nor truly of the military sort, Dr. Cook compares his idea to instead it is a contractual sort of financial incentives that lead to emotional and psychological restraints from leaving. The idea calls for hospitals to stop offering modest incentives tied to 1 to 2 year contracts and instead offer greater incentives such as completely paid for educations tied to 5 to 6 year contracts. The hope of Dr. Cook is that with longer periods of indenture, employees will settle down in the area and marry, have kids, and develop strong friendships and buy homes, creating a stickness that makes it much harder for them to leave. History has taught us that indentured servitude is an ethical nightmare. However, is this true for the type of incentives package Dr. Cook is calling for? I don't think so. From a utilitarian point of view, the ethical decision is one that promotes the most happiness for the most people. Under Dr. Cook's idea, nurses will be able to complete their education in the same amount of time as they would have under any ordinary circumstances, however, have no debt upon leaving. This seems to offer only more happiness in the form of more disposable income for nurses. From a hospital perspective, they incur more upfront costs, however, may end up saving significantly when it comes to job searches, training new employees, and paying higher salaries for travel nurses. The apparent cost savings would be a positive source of happiness for the hospital as well. Although this idea does not make up for the difference in income between nurses and some of the other bachelor degree only jobs listed above, it would increase the number of applicants for other reasons. Primarily, it promotes job security. An applicant for indentured servitude has a guaranteed job after graduation and a guaranteed job for the duration of the contract. This security, tied to the idea of free education, should lead to more applicants choosing nursing in lieu of the careers with higher income potential but less guarantee of a job in the future. The potential negative aspects seem to only come from nurses potentially not making as much money as they would by moving around. However, because that potential loss in income is offset by the gain in income brought by not having student loans, and many nurses might choose to stay in the hospital regardless of the contract, that negative is outweighed by the positive. According to the American Nursing Association Code of Ethics, Provision 2, the nurse's primary commitment is to the patient, whether an individual, family, group, or population. At worst, this idea appears to have no effect on its provision. At best, this idea could be seen as promoting Provision 2 by allowing the nurse to focus on the patient instead of monetary concerns brought about by student loan payments. It also reduces the likelihood of error by nurses building familiarity in an environment rather than having to learn new environments and their rules with each move. The fact that Dr. Cook's idea requires a nurse to stay in one place for a specific range of time and thereby influences their decision to stay even longer works in favor of several other provisions of the Code of Ethics. Because the nurse is in one place, it allows them to involve themselves in long-term research studies they wouldn't have otherwise been eligible, promoting Provision 7. It also allows them to be more involved in their community and promote social justice within it, thereby promoting Provision 9. Also, not having to constantly look for new jobs or move around as part of a travel agency, the nurse under indenture would have more time to join and participate in professional organizations and to promote the profession of nursing in general and the health of the public, key components of Provisions 6 and 8. Finally, Provision 5 argues that the nurse has a duty to themselves to promote their own growth and health and personal and professional growth. By remaining at the same place of employment, the nurse has the ability to grow into more responsibilities as their familiarity and time with the hospital or organization grows. They also have time to develop relationships in the community, whether through family, friends, or both, and thereby grow personally. Because it adheres to the ANA's Code of Ethics and appears to provide the most happiness for most of the people, indentured servitude in the extremely limited confines of Dr. Cook's recommendation is an ethical solution to a serious problem.